Hi, I'm Simon Rose, the founder of RPT, the world's most effective technique for creating permanent change. I'd like to tell you some of the things that make RPT different to all the other tools and techniques that are out there. There are 3 points in particular that I wanted to quickly cover today, and those are the technique for clearing trauma, the technique for de-armoring or clearing sabotage, and the developmental events model. These are 3 really unique aspects of RPT. The first thing you might have heard about is about clearing trauma. Now, trauma is one of the main things that causes problems in our life. It's usually very deep hidden trauma. It's very rare that it's the big thing. It's not like, oh, this terrible thing happened when I was a teenager. It's usually something that happens at birth or in the womb or in the first couple of years of life. And these small, often forgotten things create a very big impact on our life and kind of a spiral effect. So starting as something very small, other things start to grow and it puts us on a particular path. Now, in RPT, what we developed was a very, very simple tool for healing this trauma. What's different about it is, in many ways, you don't have to relive it. You can just access what's stored in the body and really release it in almost a physical way to release that trauma from the body. The most important part isn't really that. The most important part is we developed an algorithm or a structure for starting with some symptom and tracing it back to some trauma, even some forgotten little thing. So you see, you might have some problem in your life now. It could be a problem with your health, with your relationships, with money, and you don't know the cause of that problem. Maybe you think you know the cause, and usually you're wrong, because when you think you know the cause, it's a mental construct. What you think is the cause, like your beliefs, what you talk to a therapist about, that's just an idea, that's a story. When you use our algorithm, you release that story, you look underneath it, and you get deeper and deeper and deeper, and you find this tiny little thing from your childhood that put you on path A rather than path B, and you're able to change tracks. In a sense, you move your life from, oh, I'm on this path, to what if that never happened? I'll live my life on that path. So that's one of the most important aspects of RPT is clearing trauma, but more importantly than that, the fact that we have a very robust, reliable system for starting with some symptom and tracking it back to finding the cause. And people are so grateful for that because for many years they thought they knew the cause of their problems and it turned out they were working on the wrong thing. Just as a simple guideline for you, if you think you know the cause of one of your problems and it relates to anything after about 3 or 4 years of age, that's not the cause. Okay? The cause is something that's either a birth, sometimes a trauma in the womb, as I'm going to come to, a birth of the very, very first couple of years of life. That's the cause. And we can take it from there and very often extend that back to earlier generations. So the first really important part of RPT, finding the cause and very easily clearing the cause. I come now to the second really important part of RPT, what makes RPT different. We call this the de-armoring process, and it's also a self-sabotage clearing process. So what you find in life is that very often a person says, I want this, I want to be healthy, I want to be rich, but their actions take them in a different direction. In fact, very often the physical steps they do lead them in the exact opposite path of what they say that they want. This is self-sabotage. Now, in fact, almost any complaint or problem that a person has will have elements of self-sabotage. So anything you can think of that a person might talk to a therapist about or a doctor has an element of self-sabotage. The fact that they're sick or have a problem is already an aspect of self-sabotage. Why is that important? Well, it's because when a person traditionally talks to a therapist or doctor, what they're talking about and what they're dealing with usually is not the underlying problem, but that sort of sabotage layer or the presenting layer. And I demonstrate this most easily using a pillow. So I want you to imagine that I'm talking to you, maybe you're the therapist, I'm the client for a moment, and I come to you for help. I walk in to see you and I have what's called an armored layer, a sabotage layer. I don't tell you my deep, deep, vulnerable feelings immediately. I can tell you what's safe and what's on the outside. And we call that armor because it is the armor that keeps me safe. Now, what traditionally happens between a therapist and a client is you can take weeks, months, sometimes years of talking about this layer of armor and my mum and my dad and this and that. And it can take years before the person might feel safe to actually release that and show their vulnerability. What we developed in RPT is a tool called de-armoring. And essentially it's like feeling the armor, feeling how safe you are with this and ripping it away in one go. What that means is that we can achieve in a couple of minutes what normally takes therapists months or years. Without that, the classic sort of need to build rapport and build a relationship, it is possible, if the client is ready, to get them into their armor and then de-armor them in a few minutes. So in just a few minutes of starting a session with the client, I've moved from their story, what they think is the issue, to the true vulnerability underneath it. This has enormous applications. It's very, very important. And one of the best examples I can give you is in what's called secondary gain. There's a good chance you've heard of that term before. A classic example would be a person is sick, but they're getting some benefit from being sick, like they're getting more love, more attention from being sick. So they're going to the doctor, they're taking medicines, they maybe even go for surgery. They never really get better because on a hidden level, they're getting this benefit from being sick. And that benefit is again analogous to this armor. So here's the real me wanting help, but on this outside armor layer, I'm getting more attention. I don't really 100% want to get better because I'm getting this extra love or compensation or whatever it might be. And that's called a secondary gain. Now, the problem of secondary gain is well known. It's well documented in psychology. There are other tools such as EFT that try to deal with it in one way or other, usually as what's called a bypass, which is finding a way around it, but not dealing with the problem. In RPT, we've developed an incredibly powerful tool for solving secondary gain. In fact, I believe it's the first tool that actually solves secondary gain. The way that we do that is we look at it from the perspective of what's called a missing resource. What that means is there's something the person's missing inside them and they're compensating for that with their problem. So again, using our simple example, the person is missing some sense of self-love and they're compensating for that by being sick and attracting love from the outside. So they're doing things to attract on the outside what's missing on the inside. And instead of dealing with that in classic psychology way, talking about it, trying to bypass it, we go straight to the source of the problem. We say, well, what is it that's missing? What is the cause of this person lacking self-love? And very often it's something in earlier generations within their family system. We will find the true beginning of it. We will find where that resource is missing and restore it on the inside. And then guess what? You come back to the present day and they don't need their problem anymore, because if they really have access to that self-love, they don't need to be sick. So I really feel this is the world's first cure for secondary gain and self-sabotage. It's the absolute cure, because when you have access to what you really need inside, you just don't need that problem anymore. It's just gone. So RPT really is so different from other therapies. Firstly, as I said, because we have a structure of getting from the earliest symptom, from your current symptom to the earliest cause. And secondly, because we have this structure for healing armor, for healing self-sabotage and secondary gain. And the third really interesting and unique aspect is what we do on our level 2 course. It's called the Key Developmental Events Model. What's fascinating and unique about this is that there are a number of events that happen to every single one of us in our early development. And these events formed aspects of our health and psychology. These are stories in the journey of the sperm and the journey of the egg, leading through conception all the way to the moment of birth, that had a big impact. I talk about this information more on one of our other videos about the level 2 course. So if you want more detail and examples of developmental events, you should look at it there. But what you need to know for now is simple. It's that each of these moments, each of these developmental events accounts for many symptoms in our life. Symptoms that often can't be solved through conventional therapies, because it's very hard to say, start at a symptom and track back to something, a cause as subtle as the sperm and egg. So we do it the other way around. We take every person through the journey of the sperm and egg, and every one of these developmental events, as you heal it, it resolves hundreds or thousands of negative beliefs and emotional hang-ups and other symptoms. So it's like doing thousands and thousands of processes in one, without the tedious job of finding the cause, because we take you straight to the cause and we clear them one by one by one. So our level 1 course is the first two things I mentioned. The level 1 course is that algorithm for finding the first trauma, healing the trauma, and the process for clearing secondary gains and self-sabotage. The level 1, by far our most important course, you do learn the full RPT technique on level 1. The level 2 course is really interesting because that's the developmental event model. It's a way of turning the healing work inside out, going right to the beginning so that every process you do resolves hundreds or thousands of different problems. And it's a very powerful way to change how you think, how you feel, and particularly to bring your head and your heart and your body into a coherence, into an alignment. The ideal is, of course, to do the level 1 and 2 together, and then you get the complete package and the best results. So I hope that I've been able to explain to you some of the really unique aspects of RPT, why it is so different to every other therapy and technique out there, and I hope it will appeal to you. Hopefully I'll see you on one of our upcoming seminars.